You know, some stories feel like they're ripped straight out of a crime thriller, but this one is tragically real. We're going to break down the case of Stacy Hunsucker, a young mom whose sudden death was written off as a heart condition. But behind that diagnosis was a secret that is absolutely chilling.
So at the very center of this whole story is 32-year-old Stacy Hunsucker. And to everyone who knew her in Mount Holly, North Carolina, she was just this wonderful person. A beloved preschool teacher, a super talented crafter, and most importantly, a devoted mom to her two little girls, Piper and Willow. By all accounts, she was just a happy person who really loved her life. So you can imagine the shock when she was found unresponsive on her couch and pronounced dead. To everyone, the cause seemed pretty obvious. I mean, Stacy had this long, well-documented history of some pretty serious heart problems. So for the local police, it was a tragedy for sure, but it looked like a natural death. The case was basically closed before it even really opened. But as investigators would eventually find out, Stacy's death was, well, it was anything but simple. Her medical history wasn't the cause of her death. It was actually the perfect cover story for something much darker.
To really understand what happened here, we have to start at the beginning, with the life Stacy was living, a life that, to anybody looking in from the outside, seemed absolutely perfect. Stacy and Joshua Hunsucker were your classic high school sweethearts. He was this confident, charming guy, a flight paramedic, and she was a full-time mom. They had their two beautiful daughters, a nice home in the suburbs. I mean, on paper, it was the dream. Friends would see them at cookouts and concerts and always said they were such a cute couple, that they never saw them fight.
But underneath that perfect surface, something was going terribly wrong. Starting back in 2013, Stacy's health just went into a nosedive. She was constantly in and out of the hospital with these bizarre symptoms that just stumped her doctors. We're talking a dangerously low heart rate, low blood pressure, and then in 2015, a full-blown cardiac arrest. It got so bad that she had to have a pacemaker implanted, and she wasn't even 30 years old yet. So after Stacy died, this long medical history seemed like the perfect explanation, right? But almost immediately, her husband Joshua's behavior started setting off all kinds of red flags for the people closest to them. And this is where the official story really begins to fall apart. Joshua couldn't keep his story straight about the moment he found Stacy's body. I mean, look at this. He gave 4 different alibis to 4 different people. To the police, he was locking the cars. To a friend, he was out for a walk. To another, he was cutting wood. And to his own mother-in-law, he was at the kitchen table. You know, it's a classic sign of lying. If you're telling the truth, you only need one story.
And the weird behavior just kept piling up. He fought hard against an autopsy, which is really strange, especially since Stacy was a registered organ donor. Then he had her body cremated in just 2 days. That is incredibly fast. And get this, within those same 2 days, he'd already filed a claim for her $250,000 life insurance policy. Friends said he showed zero grief, he moved his girlfriend into their family home within months, and then went on a massive spending spree with the insurance money. A boat, vacations, paying off the mortgage, the whole shebang. So while police saw a sad but natural death, Stacy's mother, Susie Robinson, saw a whole bunch of disturbing facts that just weren't adding up. Her gut, her mother's intuition, was screaming that something was terribly wrong. Susie saw it all. She saw Joshua's complete lack of sadness, his bizarre rush to cremate her daughter and get that insurance check. All those years she spent worrying about Stacy's health suddenly turned into this deep, dark suspicion about her son-in-law, and she just refused to let it go. And pretty soon, her worst fears were confirmed. Susie found out Joshua had been having an affair the whole time. So she started connecting the dots. The affair, the insurance money, refusing the autopsy, it all clicked. So about 9 months after Stacy died, she took a huge step. She reported her suspicions for insurance fraud, and that one single act is what finally kickstarted a full-blown murder investigation. This fraud investigation would lead detectives to one tiny, crucial piece of evidence, something Joshua Hunsucker never in a million years saw coming, and it was about to unravel his entire plan. You have to admit, Joshua was careful. He'd essentially fabricated a medical history for his wife, he rushed to have her cremated to destroy any evidence, and he had an official cause of death from the authorities. He was this close to getting away with it all. But he forgot one thing. Because Stacy was a registered organ donor, a single vial of her blood had been drawn and preserved right after her death. It was just a routine procedure, and it was the one piece of physical evidence that he couldn't get rid of. So investigators sent that blood vial for some very specialized testing, and what they found was shocking. Tetrahydrozoline.
Now that's a mouthful, but it's just the active ingredient in over-the-counter eye drops. And here's the thing, when you ingest it, it acts as a really potent poison. It squeezes the body's blood vessels so aggressively that it can shut down the heart, perfectly mimicking a natural heart attack. And the craziest part, standard hospital toxicology screens don't even test for it.
And the amount they found in Stacy's system, it was just staggering. This wasn't some kind of accidental exposure. We are talking about a concentration 30 to 40 times higher than what you'd find in any normal therapeutic level. This was not an accident. This was systematic poisoning. This was murder.
So, with the cause of death now confirmed as poisoning, investigators started putting together a mountain of evidence that all pointed directly to one person, her husband, the flight paramedic.
Suddenly, the case against Joshua looked incredibly strong. As a paramedic, he had the expert medical knowledge. He knew exactly how this poison would work and that it would fly under the radar of normal tests. His job also gave him easy access to these kinds of medications. And then there's this, the most damning part. He had actually told 2 of his coworkers that if he ever wanted to kill someone, he'd use eye drops. And he said this right after a similar, highly publicized eye drop murder case had happened just nearby.
Now, you'd think getting arrested for murder would be the end of it. But with Joshua, his desperation led to a truly horrific escalation. He started harassing Stacy's parents. He literally staged his own kidnapping to try and frame his father-in-law. And then, in an act that is just monstrous, he poisoned his own daughter, hoping he could shift the blame onto her grandparents. It just shows the insane and dangerous lengths he was willing to go to.
So on December 19, 2019, the net finally closed in. Joshua Hunsucker was arrested and hit with a slew of charges: first-degree murder, felony insurance fraud, and obtaining property by false pretenses.
After all that dangerous behavior, his bond was revoked, and today Joshua Hunsucker remains in jail where he's awaiting trial. And his 2 daughters, thankfully, have been removed from his care. They're now safe with their grandparents, who are still fighting for justice for Stacy.
In the end, this quote from the insurance commissioner really says it all. If it hadn't been for a mother who just refused to accept the official story and that one single vial of blood that was saved because of Stacy's own generosity, Joshua Hunsucker might have actually gotten away with the perfect crime. It really makes you wonder, doesn't it? How many other perfect crimes out there aren't so perfect after all?